Alright, Buster. It's time I got some answers out of you. Spill the beans. Holy crap, look at the size of that. Hello Internet, welcome to Star Theory, the show where I listen to ads about deodorant in the middle of lo-fi tracks from an ARG about a computer virus that's responsible for kidnapping kids because I don't have Spotify Premium. I was promised 30 minutes of free listening. Anyway, as I said in the last video, I'll be going over the entire Spotify account of LoreFi as of today before they release a whole new playlist that throws off my entire theory, and I'll be finding more clues about the story of LoreFi. By the way, I want to thank everyone who watched my last video. I am simply overwhelmed by the reception, and it has quickly become my most viewed video in under 24 hours. Honestly, I am floored. And your comments are so joyful to read, and they're what kept me motivated to make this video. So I just wanted to take this time to say thank you all for your support. Okay, I need to move on before I get too emotional. When we left off, we deduced that Taylor is a girl who loves art, music, games, and a band called Remnant. She has a broken relationship with her father, whom she has nightmares about coming into her room while her mother opens her door to check on her. Taylor is somehow connected to the disappearance of Gregory, which might explain her interest in the butterfly effect and music theory. We also discovered that the events of LoreFi are likely to take place in July of 2005. Now, there are some clues that I forgot to go over in my previous video, such as the newspaper in Taylor's trash bin that says, "Local boy goes missing," which only shows up in the trailer for Taylor's story. This tells us that Taylor lives in the same place as Gregory, the missing boy. I also want to talk about the crumpled paper in the trash in the actual video of Taylor's story, which says, "Unlogged for weeks, no chat." This could be talking about Gregory, which leads me to believe that Taylor is the same age or around the same age as him, that being 12 years old. One last detail I saw shortly after posting the last video was on the 24/7 live stream. A comment from an account called Skeleton said this live stream has been going on since July 5th. I didn't think about when the livestream started or that it would be significant, but now that I'm looking at it, I'm led to believe that Taylor's story started on July 5th, and the video released on the 13th is taking place on the 13th. These are just little details, but I wanted to bring them up. Well, finally, let's get to the Spotify account. The way I'll be breaking this down is I'll go over the playlist from least clues to most clues that I found out of them. I've also broken the playlist into 3 sections: location, Taylor, and kidnappings. These will make sense as I go through them. There are some playlists that don't fit in these categories, so I'll go over those now. First up is Ness by Scoot Cawthorn and LoreFi. This playlist consists of the tracks Ness, Music Man, and 1983. These are likely just fun Easter eggs for the fans, and I haven't found a connection between them and the story in LoreFi, so we'll leave them for now. The second track is a single titled Fatal Exception. The fact that this track is by itself got my attention. I thought hard about what this could mean, and the best I could come up with is that this must relate to the duck we see all throughout this channel. I keep wondering, however, what the exception could be, so if anyone has an idea, leave it in the comments so we can solve this together. Okay, let's start off with the playlist section, Kidnappings. So the first playlist I want to talk about is New Game Plus. This playlist has one title that relates to a video game, which I think is prevalent in the kidnapping of Gregory, but the rest of the tracks have titles that could be calling to attention the location of these events, but I get nothing out of it. A note I'll make is that Lost Forest in Plain Sight seems like a phrase that could be taken out of this playlist, so that's interesting.
Interesting. It's interesting. That's interesting.
The second playlist to go over is 8-Bit Faded. The titles of these tracks make me think of an old, faded, dimly lit arcade machine. Where this really helps is in the next playlist. Insert Coin was the first playlist I looked for clues in because the songs spell out a clear sequence of events in the order they're put in. Right on time, this way, I'll show you, insert coin in the system. When reading these titles, I imagine that the subject of this playlist is Gregory's kidnapper, William Afton. Unnamed serial killer who is also a computer virus who kidnaps kids, but is not William Afton, luring Gregory to an old arcade machine, leading Gregory to be sucked into the game in some supernatural way. Like when you were sucked into Princess Quest in FNAF Help Wanted 2. This matches with what Gregory says at the end of Taylor's story.
What do you want me to do?
Another thing to note is that the track in the system has a different vibe from the other tracks. It has this static that goes in and out throughout the music. I won't play it from fear of getting copyrighted, but you can go listen to them for yourself. These playlists just tell us a bit more about Taylor as a person and give us some interesting insight into her life. The first playlist is called Tape Recorder, what's seen as the main album of LoreFi. These tracks spelt out a whole coherent thought that I put together as an overcast, or darkness, tuned out a moment to myself. I need to get away to a new chapter. I'll put my headphones on, get lost in thought, and stay or go somewhere else. I'm not the best puzzle solver, but we see that there is some disturbance that Taylor has noticed, and this is probably the virus that she has caught from downloading music on her music downloader Grapevine. The second playlist, Memories on Repeat, tells us a lot about Taylor's connection to Gregory. She might be having memories on repeat about Gregory or having visions of his disappearance. We see a track called Remember Me, probably again referring to Gregory, and of course the number of Gregory's address, 3251, is its own track. So clearly Taylor knew who Gregory was and is having either memories or visions of him in her dreams, bringing clarity or lucidity to her situation. Now let's get to my biggest find, which will blow your mind. First, I want to focus on the playlist called Game Over. Based on the window in the video and the titles of these tracks, we can tell that Taylor lives in a suburban area with neighbors, of course. There's also a track on the playlist called Antivirus. This probably refers to the virus protector that shows up on Taylor's computer throughout her video. That's not the focus of this playlist, but we'll keep that in mind for future theories. In Tequila Sunset, we see words such as skylines, sacred tundra, and pastel nights. These phrases usually accompany a city-like atmosphere. So Taylor probably lives in a suburban area of a city. But the real clue comes from the playlist Windy Town. Most of these titles look like simple towny titles, but one caught my eye specifically. Cloudgate. Now you may be asking, what is a cloudgate? I wondered that too, so I looked it up and learned something that I never knew. The truth is, theorists, you've seen this cloudgate. You just never knew you had. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the Cloudgate, also known as the Bean. This sculpture is in Chicago, Illinois, famous for looking like a giant bean. Looking into it gives you a warped perspective, as it is made entirely out of reflective material. That's right, theorists, I believe that our girl Taylor lives in Chicago, Illinois. And to further prove this, we just need to look at the other titles that seemed so simple at the time. The title of the playlist, Windy Town, is very similar to a common nickname given to Chicago, the Windy City. And Strollin' Down Lake leaves off the name of one of the Great Lakes, Lake Michigan, located where? Right next to Chicago. And that's not all, theorists. Guess what Chicago becomes during the winter? A tundra town. The city also has famous skylines and pastel nights. Now, I want to bring up the elephant in the room, that being Gregory's address. People have been looking up this address to see what cities it's in, but I don't think MatPat and his team picked a real-life address, as that might cause some serious problems, so I've put that aside for now. Based on the evidence I found, the events of LoreFi take place in the windy city of Chicago, Illinois, home of the famous Cloudgate. Now I just need to wait for the next batch of tracks to come out next week and completely debunk my theory, and then I'll start all over again. But for now, remember, that's just a theory. A star theory. Thanks for watching.